Welcome to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
Welcome back. It's Behind the Law featuring attorney Justin Clark of Gregory & Clark, Attorneys at Law. His location is out in Longwood near many of our other experts right here on News Talk 96.5 WDBO. If you'd like to give a call to Justin Clark right now, we welcome your legal questions at 407-297-9696 or 855-297-9696. In the next half hour, we'll be talking about a recent settlement. This has got to be settlement number 3 or 4 between the 10 monster mega banks, as Clark Howard would call them, and the federal government. And there are billions of dollars at stake that are supposed to be returned to the people. Well, we'll see if that happens or not, and Justin Clark can give us some advice on this. But right now we have Maria on the line, and Maria wants to talk about, does she need an attorney in a case where she might be inheriting a house? As simple as that. I don't think there's much else to the will. All right, Maria, can you give Justin all of the situation? We'll take you from there.
Sure. My mom passed a couple of weeks ago, and I was left administrator of the estate. It's a very simple estate. Everything was left with beneficiaries. The only issue that we need to go to probate is her home because the deed was in her name. I know what documentation I need to bring to probate, but I'm getting conflicting information as to whether they will accept it directly from me or if I have to hire an attorney simply to hand them these couple pieces of paper.
Really, it's two options. You probably do want to get a lawyer. It wouldn't be me. You might want to call Olson on Law. He has a show here on Saturdays, too. Because it's going to be such a simple thing, I think that he can probably take some of the... It kind of becomes like a part-time job for you, right? You don't love doing it, I imagine.
It's not something that you really care to do after losing a close family member, but
Sure.
It has to be taken care of.
I would probably call the Olson Law Firm. They're going to do it for you for quite an inexpensive amount of money, I imagine, because it should be a summary administration. But instead of trying to learn a whole another line of work, I would concentrate on my own life and let them do it.
But can you tell me if it's a requirement to have a lawyer file that paperwork?
It's not a requirement at all. You can do it yourself. I just wonder if it's worth the time learning how to do it when I think you could do it for very not a lot of money, a small amount of money through the Olson firm. That's my feeling. But
okay.
you sure can do it yourself if you want to learn.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I needed to know.
Thanks, Maria. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Marie. 407-297-9696 or 855-297-9696. 10 banks agreeing to pay back $8.5 billion, with a B, $billion for foreclosure abuse. What is abuse?
This is the second such settlement that we've seen. The first one was in June of 2012. And that one did have an effect on the loan modifications. The 5 largest servicers back in 2012 participated in the national mortgage settlement, meaning they have to pay people money who they wrongfully foreclosed upon or do modifications for people who they were trying to wrongfully foreclose on who haven't gotten foreclosed upon yet. But it was only the 5 largest servicers. Now we're going to add some names to the mix. And I got it right here, and I don't see any reason why I can't say their names because it's public knowledge. We've got Citigroup, MetLife Bank, and I don't like to read to you, but just please allow me 1 second. PNC Financial Services, Sovereign, SunTrust, and Aurora Loan Servicing. So now we've got more people who, if you want to stay in your home, even if you're not behind right now, we might be able to do a modification because the government is forcing them now to work better with you on this modification. Modifications suck. It's a part-time job for people who try to do it. They get the runaround, and it's just not fun.
What were these, when you see the big monster towers in the downtowns, and some of these people are represented in O-Town and others in Jacksonville and Atlanta, but a lot of people in Central Florida were affected by loans for these people and foreclosures. What in the world were these people doing and or thinking during the foreclosure plunge? I mean, were they really doing things that now the government says you were so wrong it's going to cost you $8.5 billion?
You're exactly right. What they were doing oftentimes is signing documents fraudulently. They would literally have someone sitting at a desk signing thousands and thousands all day long, and it wasn't right. And then they would foreclose and kick families out of their house. these children were walking to school and they would come home and they would have no home to go to. They would be locked out of their house wrongfully. And that's what this settlement's all about. The settlement's still not good enough, I don't think. I don't think we're doing enough for the people who got screwed over here, but it's something. And I think now, because the housing market's coming back a little bit, if you want to keep your house, now is the best time over the last 4 years to modify your loan, because they're forcing them to do better modifications and treat you a little more responsibly, a little more.
You know what bothers me about this?
No.
Some of these heavy hitters on this list and the list above it are people that got the big bailouts from the government in the first place.
Yes, they did. And
Too big to fail, remember that?
I saw a movie about that recently, too.
So I guess they're just giving back some of the money they got in the loan.
And I think that
Doesn't hurt, does it?
what people need to understand, too, is there's so much confusion about all of these letters. HAMP, HARP, HAFA. Like, what is that? People are confused about it. So maybe I should describe a little bit about what is what here. When you're talking about a modification, this is not a refinance. A modification is literally modifying the existing rate. There's no new money coming in to pay off the other mortgage. And that's done now under the HAMP, H-A-M-P, Tier 2 program. And the HAMP Tier 2 program is much better than the first HAMP, because now you can do second homes. You can even do commercial properties. They want your monthly payment to be 31% of your gross monthly income. But under HAMP Tier 2, if you have a second mortgage, they're even including that payment as part of the 31%. So even if you've done a modification in the past, HAMP Tier 2 says you can do another one. At least try to do another one. What we're also hear a lot about is HARP. H-A-R-P. HARP is a refinance program, meaning some bank's going to come in and actually pay off your underwater mortgage, and you're going to get a new mortgage. Unfortunately, HARP is only if your loan is owned by Fannie or Freddie. So if it's not Fannie or Freddie, it's not for you. And then there's a traditional loan modification, which each bank can do their own modification. What you really need to do is add up your gross monthly income. 31% of that should be your monthly mortgage payment, including principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're paying more than that, you need to look into maybe fixing it. And then there's also HAFA. People get HAFA confused with these two. HAFA is a short sale program. So HAFA has nothing to do with a modification whatsoever. And then, lastly, a lot of people have turned to a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, because in a bankruptcy now, in a Chapter 13, you're entitled to a mortgage mediation program, meaning the bank has to come and sit down with you and try to work something out. And those are your three main options. If you're having trouble paying your mortgage, or if you're behind but you still want to keep your house, now's the time, man.
Mm-hmm.
Ask your question live. Tune into FM 96.5 WDBO Sundays at noon and ask Justin your question.
I had an FHA loan, and I was wondering what the options are for someone who would like to modify it.
Now, what do you say to the person who hears this and they go, okay, honey, first thing in the morning, call our bank and talk to Mr. Smith and see if you can't get a modification? Good idea, bad idea?
Stay tuned. Justin Clark will be right back with more Behind the Law. Welcome back to Behind the Law, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
If somebody hears about us talking about this $8.5 billion, and they were foreclosed upon during the rush of foreclosures, but they don't know if they qualify for this or not, what would their first step be?
I think you probably need to come and sit down and talk to someone who does this every day. Don't listen to your neighbor, because your neighbor had a different bank and a different situation. Come and talk to someone, and sit down with them, someone who will give you a free consultation. Spend 30 minutes and go through all of your information. It's really a financial decision, and a very important one. Sit down with someone who's done this thousands of times, knows what they're doing, check their background, check their reviews online, and let's see, maybe it's not for you. Maybe it is.
All right, you want to give us a call, 407-297-9696 or 855-297-9696. What changes have you seen, or what's the traffic like in your office and on the phones since the Mortgage Debt Relief Act was extended, thank goodness, and are people now knowing that they've got 1 year to get their financial house,
Right.
forgive the pun, in order, because it probably won't be extended again?
Right. I don't think so. It's been extended through the end of this year. The Mortgage Debt Relief Act says any forgiven debt, whether it's a short sale or a principal forgiveness on a modification, now that's taxable income. You're going to get a 1099. But the Mortgage Debt Relief Act says you don't pay taxes on that forgiven debt. Problem is, a short sale a lot of times can take 9 months. So if you're going to consider a short sale, the time to start is probably now. Because I'm not, I was convinced they were going to extend it this year, although I was getting a little nervous at the end.
You were getting a little shaky.
But I'm certainly not convinced they're going to extend the Mortgage Debt Relief Act after this year.
And you convinced us that a short sale sometimes takes 10 months to a year.
It can. And oftentimes that's good for people because they want to live in their house for free during the process and save a little bit of money. Because money's still tight. The job market's still not great here.
No.
And in Central Florida, we were so reliant upon the construction business. And I know there's some new construction coming back, but it's still a tough job market. Whether you're an owner-operator truck driver, who I see all the time, or a roofer, or even a general contractor, the market out there is still tough.
Mm-hmm. If you've had a situation in your family where you bought the house with two incomes, and now one of the two wage earners, this is the type of people you're talking about, one of the two wage earners is now not in the employment field. Is that some justification to try to get a modification? Because you were talking 31%. Well, right. It's not 31% anymore.
You better believe it. I mean, if you lose an entire income, people know that can be tragic to a family, and they simply can't afford the mortgage anymore. And it happens all the time. And that is a perfect example of trying to take advantage of this current climate we're in to lower your mortgage, because in all likelihood, you're underwater on your house, so you're not going to be able to refinance it unless maybe you can do the HARP. But if you can do a modification, voila, that's fantastic.
Now, what do you say to the person who hears this and they go, okay, honey, first thing in the morning, call our bank and talk to Mr. Smith and see if you can't get a modification? Good idea, bad idea?
I think it's a bad idea because they'll lie to you. Or you're going to talk to John over at the bank, and then you're going to call back tomorrow and you're going to hear something else from Susan. And then you're going to call back the next day and an entirely different thing. They're going to tell you they're going to send this package you got to fill out. You send it in. Oh, we never got it. I swear we didn't get it. Well, I have the FedEx tracking number right here. It says that you got it. It says John Smith signed for it on such and such day. And it's a disaster. It's really a nightmare. And it becomes, doing a modification on your own becomes a part-time job. I've told you this 1,000 times, and it's a miserable part-time job for people. But you also have to know what you're doing to get it done and get it done the right way.
Well, and we've had a lot of callers, and I mean a lot of callers over the past year and a half, who called and said, well, we called the bank. We didn't have an attorney. We called the bank, and the bank said, well, we can't do anything for you unless you're behind. So skip 3 months, and then we're going to take it up. Well, what happened to the callers that called Justin is they went ahead and stopped paying for 3 months. Well, but then the foreclosure hallway of the bank started a foreclosure on them. Their credit was so bad they couldn't refinance because they'd lost 3 months of payments. And it was a downward spiral, and people were losing their homes because of it.
Back in the day, if you try to do a loan modification, I guarantee you the bank says, don't pay your mortgage and we'll talk to you.
That's terrible. All right, we want to talk to you at 407-297-9696. Much more coming up as you are Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark on TV 27.
Ask your question live. Tune into FM 96.5 WDBO Sundays at noon and ask Justin your question.
I have my loan's been sold 3 times actually since 2006, and I don't know what else to do.
I had an FHA loan, and I was wondering what the options are for someone who would like to modify it.
Stay tuned. Justin Clark will be right back with more Behind the Law. Welcome back to Behind the Law, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
Welcome back to Behind the Law. You're watching on TV 27 WRDQ. During the show today, we've been talking about modifications, and we've been talking about all types of ramifications of foreclosures and bankruptcy. And people sometimes think it's really easy to just get out of it by claiming bankruptcy and walking away. There are too much information out there about bankruptcy, making it seem too simple. Well, it can cause a lot of problems because timing is virtually everything.
Timing is everything, and you've got to use time to your advantage too, because there are ways now to maybe get away with staying in your house for a little longer and save up some money, especially if you've lost a job. Timing's everything. I see you made a little note there, Rob, and I appreciate that because you're right on the money with that.
Mm-hmm. It just worries me that so many people now have gone 180 on it. Our parents, grandparents would have never considered bankruptcy because it was a taboo in our society. And now it just seems like people are reading those signs along the road, and they've been so brainwashed that, hey, Go bankruptcy, couple of years, you'll be back on top, no problem. It does have ramifications you need to think about.
I appreciate the fact that people want to pay their bills. Everyone that comes in my office wants to pay their bills. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, no one's seen an economy like this that has happened in the last few years. How many times have you seen a company like Bear Stearns one day just get completely shut down?
Amen to that. Mike, he's in Orange County. He's got a question for Attorney Justin Clark. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, question for you. We got told, we got an email from the Attorney General telling us that we qualified for settlement payment from all the foreclosure misdoings and whatnot.
You're talking about if you go to nationalmortgagesettlement.com, you're going to learn about this. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Well, anyhow, we got a letter in the mail that we would qualify for so much from that. And then after that, we got a letter from the independent foreclosure people.
Right.
And the question is, we qualify for the payment from the Attorney General with all this doing, so we also qualify for something from the independent review people as well.
Are you still in this house, or have they foreclosed upon you?
They foreclosed on the same time we were doing working on a loan modification.
Right.
They were foreclosing on the house, telling us everything was okay, and because office agent take an extra office fee, the consumer gets penalized.
And so they did foreclose on you. The house is gone, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
There are two aspects to the national mortgage settlement, and this is not the one we're talking about here, Rob.
Right.
This is the prior one, and it does two things. One, for people who are still in their house, it incentivizes the bank more to work with them on a loan modification, oftentimes including a principal reduction. Number two, if the people have already been foreclosed on, they're going to, if they meet the requirements, get a payment from the settlement, so from the government, because the government took all the money and they're distributing it basically. But it's not a lot of money. It's a little over $800. That's what it's going to be. So, for all of your efforts, I hope that you were out of the house before someone came and knocked on the door and gave you a 24-hour eviction notice. But if you send it in, and you have to do it by January 18th is the deadline, you're going to get a little over $800. As far as the independent foreclosure review, I know what you're talking about, and a lot of people in this audience have gotten the same letter, Mike. I see no reason with sending it in as well. Might as well send it in. I'm not sure you're going to get anywhere with it, but you might as well. It's a pretty quick process.
All right, let's go over to Melbourne, Florida, and David. David, thank you for calling and joining the show. We appreciate your question. And what is it?
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call. Quick question. I have an FHA loan, and I was wondering what the options are for someone who would like to modify it when there's somebody who's on the deed and the mortgage who's no longer in the home.
Are you in the home?
Yes, I am.
What you have to do, and FHA is very difficult to work with on modifications, and their ratios are sometimes different. If you have an FHA loan, sometimes they even have the payment 50% of your gross monthly income. But other times they'll do it the way we want it done as well. But what David's saying, I think, is that he owned the home maybe with an ex-wife or something before, and they're both on the title, both on the mortgage, but now one party's gone. And we see that a lot. What you oftentimes have to do, if it's a divorce situation, we need to see the divorce decree, and we need that other party to quit claim the property over to us, and then the bank will work with you.
Okay.
And keep it up, or call us at 321-282-1055, and maybe we can give you a little more advice on that as well.
Tune into FM 96.5 WDBO Sundays at noon and ask Justin your question.
And I have my loan's been sold 3 times actually since 2006, and I just don't know what else to do.
Stay tuned. Justin Clark will be right back with more Behind the Law. Welcome back to Behind the Law, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
Richard in Apopka, how can we help you on this fine day in Central Florida?
With that.
Go ahead.
Hey, it's Rick.
Hey, Rick, you're on the air.
I'm on the air. Okay. Yeah, my question is, I have been denied since April for my loan modification. I have my loan's been sold 3 times actually since 2006, and I just don't know what else to do. We have one income in the house, and that's it. And first they say we make too much money, then they say we don't make enough money. Yep. I've tried for the HAMP 1, Tier 2, and an in-house modification, and they just keep on telling me to send a letter, a hardship letter, because I'm waiting for disability to get a hearing. So I don't
Sure.
know what to do anymore.
And Scott, if you can hear me, keep Richard on the line here because I'm going to follow up with something. But Richard is echoing the sentiment of a lot of people who have gone through this. They've been trying to work something out with the bank. They say, bank, I want to pay you. I want to give you money. I can't afford to pay you the entire amount. And certainly I can't afford to pay you the $30,000 I owe you from not paying the last 2 years. But I want to pay you. I want to work something out. Can you please help me? And then they'll get through the whole modification process, and then the bank, lo and behold, will sell the loan off to someone else. And you say, bank, come on, I'm almost done here. Like, sorry, start over, dude. It's ridiculous. And this is exactly what's happening to Rick, and it happens all the time. Rick, now, who is your mortgage with now? Just say it.
Now it's Homeward.
Homeward Financial. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm finding people who have been through the modification process for all this time and getting denied. Everyone that comes to see me has tried to do it themselves first, almost everybody. If you want to keep your house, keep it up. Come talk to me even if you want. Gregory-Clark.com, and we'll see, based on your income, if I really think it's possible to keep it or not. If it's possible to keep it, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you to keep up the fight. Because at some point, I imagine they're probably going to help you out.
All right, we're down to 1 minute. And one of the questions I've always had for you, and I keep forgetting, is you invite people to the office and you are giving them some free time. And it is a very, very laid back situation where you're going to feel better when you leave. What do they need to bring with them?
The best thing to bring is knowledge of your financial situation and some sort of letter from the bank that has the loan number on it. That's it. I need to hear your story. I need to know how much money you're making. And I need to see the loan number from the bank, and that's it. And we'll sit down and we'll talk and really figure out what the best option is for you.
Mm-hmm. Now, contact information, phone numbers, all that.
Gregory-Clark.com, 321-282-1055. I'm happy to meet with you.
Thank you for watching Behind the Law with Justin Clark. Be sure to join us again next week as Justin takes you behind the law and answers your legal questions.